Hi, I'm Marianne Bola, Head of National Education at Ducks Unlimited Canada, and today we are going to talk about climate change. Did you know that wetlands that Ducks Unlimited Canada works to conserve and restore help mitigate the effects of climate change? For instance, they greatly reduce the impacts of flooding and droughts and help stop coastal erosion from rising sea levels. We've compiled some of the most Googled questions around climate change, and joining me today are two scientists of Ducks Unlimited Canada, Institute for Wetland and Waterfowl Research, Dave Howerter and Pascal Badiou, who will gladly answer them. So, Dave and Pascal, can you give us a few words about what you do at Ducks Unlimited Canada?
Sure, thanks Marianne. I'm Dave Howerter. I am the Chief Conservation Officer for Ducks Unlimited Canada.
Great, and Pascal?
I'm Pascal Badiou, a research scientist with the Institute for Wetland and Waterfowl Research, and have spent the last 15 years studying wetlands in terms of water quality, greenhouse gas emissions, and carbon sequestration.
Awesome. All right, so hope you are ready for the revealing of the most Googled questions.
I guess we'll see.
Okay, so first one, is climate change the same as global warming?
Good question. Starting off with a tough one. I would say that they are not exactly the same, but they are related. So when I think about climate change, it's more than warming, but it's related to warming. The warming of the globe generally is causing a variety of impacts that affect the climate. So for example, the globe is warming, as we know, but it's not warming at the same rates everywhere. Canada's Arctic, for example, is warming more quickly than almost anywhere else on Earth. But there are actually certain places that we're expected to get slightly cooler and wetter as a result of climate change, but it's all driven by the same causes. Other things around climate change that aren't specifically warming is that we see precipitation events changing. The storms are getting more severe. The timing of when precipitation occurs in the year is changing. So they're two related terms, but they're not exactly the same, at least in my mind.
Okay. Next question. Is climate change caused by humans?
Yeah, so another great question, and it's somewhat related to the answer that Dave just gave. So climate change is definitely partially caused by humans, and that's largely through the emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases through the burning of fossil fuels. And that greatly contributes to global warming, but there are other aspects of climate change that are natural.
Okay, so this is the follow-up question then, is climate change natural?
So, in part. So if we think about where we're sitting right now in Manitoba, 12,000 years ago, it was under a glacier. The last ice age in this part of the world was the Wisconsin glaciation, for the technical term, and there was ice here. So as the climate gradually warmed, those glaciers receded and plants and animals moved back into this area. So it's been warming for tens of thousands of years. But as Pascal just said, as part of the scientific enterprise, one of the things we do, the primary thing we do is compare evidence for different explanations of phenomena. And what we see is that now almost all of the weight of evidence is on the fact that humans are causing a rapid acceleration of warming. So if we look at the trends through time, and very appropriate for Canadian audiences, the curve of warming was very gradual for a very long time, and now it has had a very quick uptick, shaped like a hockey stick. So they actually talk about it as the hockey stick model to explain global warming.
What is not natural is the rate of climate change that we're seeing.
Exactly.
Right now. Okay. Next question, is climate change reversible?
Yeah, so fortunately, climate change is reversible. By sequestering carbon through natural processes, whether that's using wetlands as nature-based solutions or grasslands, you can remove a significant amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and start reversing the impacts of climate change. Now, of course, that also needs to be paired with reductions in fossil fuel emissions.
Okay. Next question.
Sure.
Is climate change getting worse?
Good question. It's not clear whether it's getting worse or not, but the information, I talked about evidence and collecting data in the last one, in the last question. The evidence is getting stronger and stronger, and as a result, the estimates are getting more and more precise. So just a few months ago, the International Panel on Climate Change came out with a new report that suggests that the current state of global warming is about at their worst case scenarios from previous estimates. So it's not clear whether climate change is getting worse or the estimates are just converging on that the more dire scenario.
Okay. And last question, is climate change getting better?
Yeah, so unfortunately at this point, climate change isn't getting better. In fact, you could turn off all fossil fuel emissions today and the globe is still committed to a certain degree of climate warming over the next few decades. And so that really emphasizes the fact that it's important to take action today by deploying nature-based solutions such as grasslands and wetlands and reducing greenhouse gas emissions through the reduction of fossil fuel emissions to start having an immediate impact.
Okay. This was not part of the questions, but last question. Is there any other neat characteristic that wetlands can provide to us to help us mitigate climate change? So we've talked about flood. Is there anything else that's really important to know about wetlands?
Sure. So wetlands provide a whole host of ecosystem services that are going to be beneficial to humans in a changing climate. So one off the top of my head is the fact that wetlands help improve water quality. And we know that as the climate change and as the globe gets warmer, water quality is actually predicted to get worse. And so having wetlands that are able to filter water and improve water quality will be extremely helpful.
And another one is just the physical presence of wetlands. I talked about in one of my previous answers about storms getting more severe. Well, and the precipitation events becoming more severe. Well, of course, wetlands, if the rain falls in the uplands, having wetlands there helps slow the flush of water through the system, so it helps mitigate flooding. In coastal systems where hurricanes are becoming more severe, having wetlands in place, salt marshes, can sort of mitigate that storm surge, take some of the energy out of the storm surge. So there are a number of services that wetlands provide that will help mitigate against climate change.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Dave and Pascal, for the information today and taking some time to answer the most Googled questions about climate change.